And once more, it's the Horror Guys.
Hi there, I'm Kevin.
And I'm Brian.
And we're going to talk about some sweet horror movies this week.
I thought we were going to get a buzz off this horror. Candyman.
Candyman. Oh, don't say it too many times. Oh, there's no mirror here. We're okay. We can say it as many times as we want. There's no reflections.
There's probably something reflective in here. You know, the
no
bathroom sink handle or something, your eyeglasses.
Only mirrors count. Anyway, it's Candyman week.
It certainly is.
And by coincidence, we talk about 4 movies typically. There have been 4 Candyman movies.
And that's the way that works. The original from 1992, called Candyman. The 2 sequels are Farewell to the Flesh from a couple years later, and Day of the Dead after that. And then in 2021, there was a
reboot,
prequel,
a requel,
sequel.
I think a kind of a requel, I guess.
He's kind of reborn, but the old stuff definitely happened.
Yes.
So it's sort of
well, and it's funny.
He makes a comeback.
It's, how urban legends are. The story gets told and then retold and retold and retold.
Which is really the theme of the entire series is urban legends getting told and retold.
Legends and stories. And that's kind of how it is in the remake. It's interesting because the story of the original movie is distorted over time with all these people, telling it and retelling it. And I heard that my cousin's, wife's husband, saw him and, things like that, Anyway,
it all happened. It was become sort of legendary.
It was, interesting how they did it.
Yeah, so anyway, all 4 of those appear in print over at horrorguys.com. If you go over to horrorbulletin.com, where we have our completely free newsletter weekly, you get all 4 of those in your email box, plus 2 other films. Murder to the Tune of 7 Black Notes from 1997. And it's got 16 other different names that I can't remember right now. Mm-hmm. But it's Lucio Fulci. And it's about premonitions and murder at an all-girls school. I don't know that there was too much there that I found was surprising, but it was well done.
Yeah, it was.
And also one called The Psychopath, a very weird British whodunit about a mental case.
Best use of dolls.
That's the one with the dolls.
Yes. Yeah, a lot of dolls in that one. Very creepy dolls.
A 1966 film from Amicus.
That one was pretty cool. I liked it better than The Murder to the Tune of 7 Black Notes.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of those old Italian horror movies, as great as Lucio Fulci is considered.
Well, they're lost in translation.
And a lot of them are, yeah.
Uh-huh.
I wonder how good some of them were at the time, though. He was very low budget.
Probably they were groundbreaking.
Okay. Speaking of groundbreaking, we still have out our newest book is The Horror Guy's Guide to the Films of Peter Cushing, which covers all 50-plus movies that he made that were horror. Frankenstein and some werewolf movies and a couple of Dracula movies and one that had Luke Skywalker in it, which wasn't quite horror, but he still made it. It was big.
Yeah, it was. Probably his most well-known.
Definitely his most successful film,
Yeah. Biggest moneymaker, that's for sure.
And, of course, his most recent film is listed in there also. It was filmed 22 years after he died.
No, there's a trick.
That's a trick.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, if you like Peter Cushing, pick up the book and find out about all his horror films. And as always, and that's not going to change, the Horror Guy's Guide to the Halloween Films is free in ebook form over at horrorguysshop.com.
And that's neato because Brian explains all the timelines.
Yeah, and of course it just has the synopses of all the movies and some commentary and a lot of trivia in there. It's good, and since it's free, why not? It's in EPUB and PDF, and I think that's it. EPUB for Kindle and EPUB for iPad and PDFs for things that don't read those.
And that's at our website.
HorrorGuysShop.com. Or go to HorrorGuys.com and look around. You'll find a link there.
Yeah.
All right, and that takes us to the first Candyman film, 1992, directed by Bernard Rose, written by Clive Barker. I'll get through all this, and I don't think that really sunk in who wrote this.
Did you read the original short story? It was interesting, comparing them to the movie.
There's a short story?
It's a longish short story, but yeah. Uh-huh.
I did not. I suppose I should.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, written by Clive Barker and Bernard Rose, stars Virginia Madsen, Xander Berkeley, and Tony Todd. Hour and 39 minutes. Trailer in the show notes. Spoiler free. What happens?
Well, there's a lot packed into this, and it's held up pretty well. We still liked it. The practical effects, the gore, and the insects are impressive. The music is really great. This casting is perfect. And we both liked it even better this time around than when it came out. We both saw it when it came out. We liked it this time better.
I think I saw all three of them when they came out. I did not see the newest one in the theater.
Okay, I only saw the first one in the theater. Saw the others later.
And I will say, after seeing all four of them, before we get into the spoilers, that the first one is the best of the four.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think 1, 2...
remake.
Then the remake, and then the third one is kind of awful.
It's a step down.
Yeah. All right, well, gothic organ music plays as we fly over the city streets as the credits roll. And before we get in here, I think this may be some of the best music in a horror film that I can think of.
It is really excellent.
It's very noticeable.
Yes.
Almost overpowering. And why the music is so much better than the movie in some points. We hear the Candyman's voiceover as we see bees swarming in the Chicago Tower. We cut to Helen Lyle, who listens to a story about two teenagers that talk about the legend of Candyman. He has a hook instead of a hand, and he appears if you say his name 5 times in front of a mirror. Naturally, the teens try it, and that goes badly for them.
He comes. You call him, and turns out he's real.
Yeah, he is.
At least sometimes.
You got to try it and find out.
Yeah, he won't come every time.
Well,
but
don't try and find out, then we wouldn't have any listeners.
Yeah, but when he does, it's dramatic.
Helen is at the University of Illinois, and she's watching a course on urban legends. Trevor Lyle is her husband, giving the seminar. Helen and Bernadette are working on their thesis on that exact topic, and she's annoyed that Lyle didn't wait to use her research for the course. He's got a class to teach today. He can't wait.
Yeah, he can't wait. Things to do.
Helen talks to 2 of the school's cleaning ladies, Kitty and Henrietta, who know all about the Candyman. They tell a story about a woman who is disemboweled by a hook. Helen does more research and figures out that the building was built over the site of some of the legendary Candyman killings. She shows Bernadette that there's even a secret passageway into the next apartment.
Yeah, when they built the buildings, the bathrooms were back to back with the apartments, and if you take out the mirror in the bathroom and push
the medicine cabinet.
Yeah, the medicine cabinet mirror, and push out the other mirror, you can just walk into the other apartment through this, opening.
And that's real, by the way.
That was real.
Yeah, that's a real life thing.
That part was a real thing.
I'd rather not live there, I think.
So she's living in one of the refurbed apartment, buildings, and it's still like that. So they know the old buildings were like that. That was a nice touch.
Okay, well, this discovery leads to her and Bernadette saying the word 5 times in front of the mirror. What could go wrong?
Well, they find out.
Helen and Bernadette want to go to the projects, but Bernadette is afraid of the ghetto. It's not a safe-looking place, but they finally get to the room where the woman Kitty and Henrietta told them about. The woman that they told them about died. She finds the same secret passage in this building as was in hers, and then she finds a room with a creepy mural on the wall. And you wouldn't think just a painted wall would have a lot of effect, but it's really good here.
Yeah, the art on the walls is really impressive.
There's like his face is painted on the wall, and she like walks right out through his mouth, and it's a really cool scene.
It is.
They meet Anne-Marie, who agrees to talk to them. She knows all about Ruthie Jean, the woman who died in the apartment next door. She tells them, he can come right through these walls, And she knows it was the Candyman.
Mm-hmm.
Well, all the academics have dinner, and Purcell, an older professor, says he wrote a paper on Candyman 10 years ago. He says the legend first appeared in 1890, and Candyman was the son of a slave. He'd been sent to all the best schools and was a talented portrait artist. A wealthy landowner hired him to paint his daughter, who soon became pregnant.
Whoops.
The father paid hooligans to chase Candyman and saw his hand off. Then they smeared honey all over him until the bees stung him to death. Then they tied him up and burned him in a fire and scattered his ashes where that tenement stands yet today.
And this was not a case of, he forced himself on her or anything. It was a completely consensual. They were in love. But, the racist...
You can't tell some people that.
Racist townspeople ain't going to go for that,
Well, Helen goes back to the ghetto and talks to a little boy named Jake, who shows her a restroom where Candyman is said to have killed a young boy. Inside, she finds a toilet full of bees.
Lots of bees in this movie, real bees.
Yeah.
It would have been a dangerous set to work on.
Tony Todd had it in his contract. Every time he got stung, he got another $1,000.
Yeah, and he did get stung.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
4 hoods come in and knock her out. One of them identifies himself as the Candyman.
He's not really the Candyman. He's just a thug dressed up like him.
Well, there's a police lineup, and Helen identifies the man who hit her. Detective Valento says she's lucky to be alive, and he believes this man is the one who killed Ruthie Jean and the little boy in that restroom. In the parking garage, Helen sees the real Candyman, and she has flashbacks to the scary mural. You were not content with the stories, so I was obliged to come. Be my victim. That's his thing. My victim.
Be my victim. Yeah, it's like a seduction. It's he's very seductive about it. He's perfect for this role.
Oh, yeah, he is. He's got a great voice for this, too.
Yes.
Helen wakes up in Anne-Marie's bathroom, whose dog has been brutally murdered, and baby Anthony has gone missing. The two fight, and the police break in and arrest her. They give her a strip search, and she's covered in blood and looks really guilty. And it's all over news. She's a baby killer.
Mm-hmm.
Helen goes home to recover, and Candyman comes for her. Do you believe in me? I have the child. Allow me to take you, or he'll die in your place.
Uh-oh.
Bernadette comes in, and Candyman kills her. Trevor comes home later and finds Helen with a knife in her hand. She's arrested again for Bernadette's murder.
Yeah, so then you're left with the question, is this all in her head?
Did she kill these people?
Did she kill these people now?
We've seen Candyman, but no other living people have.
Right.
I mean, it looks like the dead people have seen Candyman kill them, but that's not a reliable thing.
Could have been in her head, yeah.
So a lot of this film is she or isn't she?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot to like about this movie.
And on the plus side, we don't see like a bottle of pills in the first 10 minutes to make you know
Right.
that she's got schizophrenia or something.
But she did hit her head. People have brought up the point.
Yes, she
when
did.
When she's attacked by the Candyman thug, she hits her head.
Yeah.
And after that is when she starts seeing the Candyman and the murders happen.
Yeah, she doesn't see anything before that. You're right.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, Candyman, we see that Candyman has the baby in the room with the mural. Or does he?
Mm-hmm.
In the morning, Helen is taken to Dr. Burke, a psychiatrist. He says that she's been on Thorazine for the past month while she waits trial for first-degree murder. This has been quite a while since that all happened.
Yeah, some time has passed.
She wasn't on the Thorazine first.
Mm-hmm.
He shows her video footage of one of her encounters with Candyman, and she's the only one who appears.
Well, that's incriminating.
She says she can prove her side of the story. All she has to do is call him, which she soon does. Unfortunately, Dr. Burke is immediately killed from behind with a hook as Candyman slices him open. She climbs out the window and escapes.
Yeah, and then he sets her free. I mean, she's sitting there all restrained. There's no way she could have killed the doctor, but the Candyman comes, kills him, and then sets her free. So then you're like, well, okay, did he really
restrained.
do that?
We don't know.
Yeah, or did she slip out? You're still wondering.
Helen rushes home to her apartment to find everything covered in plastic, with the walls being painted by Trevor and his new girlfriend.
Yeah, Trevor has moved on.
They immediately think she's crazy and dangerous, and they probably got a right to at this point.
Dangerous, maybe, yeah.
She leaves and heads back to Candyman's shrine, where she finds other paintings of the dead artist. She finds the Candyman asleep and stabs him, but that doesn't hurt him at all. She offers herself to save baby Anthony. And he's had his baby for like a month now.
Yeah.
What's his baby been eating?
Honey.
Uh-huh, yeah. Come with me and be immortal. He opens his coat and bees swarm out.
Yeah, he's made of bees.
She wakes up. It was always you, Helen, is written on the wall. She goes outside and hears the baby crying in the middle of the big stack of wood in the courtyard. And throughout the movie, they've been talking about building up this giant bonfire for some festival.
Yeah, community party. Yep. They well, and it's kind of a catharsis too, because they have an effigy of the Candyman.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Well, Jake and the others come outside and pour gas on the pile of wood. They set the pile ablaze, thinking Candyman is inside. Candyman burns. Helen burns. Still, Helen crawls out far enough to save the baby, who turns out to be fine. Flaming bees erupt from the bonfire as Helen dies. At her funeral, Trevor is surprised when a whole parade of black people come to pay their respects. They throw Candyman's hook into the grave with her coffin. And it's not clear at this point whether they knew that she was helping or hurting or what was going on. Grieving, Trevor says Helen's name 5 times in front of the bathroom mirror. Bad move for him. We cut back to Candyman's lair, and there's a new mural there now, this time of Helen.
She's the new candy person.
Candy person, yes.
Candy woman. The new urban legend.
Yeah.
Her killings and the bonfire thing and the saving the baby, and then that all becomes mashed and construed, and that all comes back in the remake.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, well, the organ music by Philip Glass went far beyond most horror films, and it elevates this one quite a bit all on its own. Tony Todd said he was stung by bees 26 times during the space of the Candyman trilogy, and supposedly in his contract he got an extra 1,000 for each sting. It's also his favorite role.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of any other movies that he really starred in. I mean, he's been in lots of stuff and sometimes in the main role, but this was his movie.
This was his big thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I've seen theories on this that say that after Helen got hit in the head in the restroom, she imagined all the Candyman sightings. She's just crazy. Well, between that possibility or the idea that he's just a myth, rumor, or legend, make him a little hard to argue, though. Or he's a real ghost. You get to decide.
Uh-huh.
And it's never absolutely clear.
No, it isn't.
Yeah, I saw this out when it first came out, and not since, and it was a lot better than I remembered this time around. The music is especially memorable.
Yep, me too.
I don't know if I'm going to call this one of my top 10 favorite movies now, but it's very good.
It's in the top 20 for sure for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, also pretty good was the second one, Candyman, Farewell to the Flesh from 1995, 3 years later. Directed by Bill Condon, written by Rand Ravitch. Oh, there's a name for you.
Yeah.
Look at me, I'm Rand Ravitch. Also, Mark Kruger and Clive Barker. Stars Tony Todd, Kelly Rowan, and Carolyn Barkley. Hour and 35 minutes, trailer in the usual place. Spoiler free, this was a decent sequel. We get more Candyman time, there's more about his backstory, the excellent music is still there, and it's got a mostly new cast, except for Tony Todd, who's still there, and the New Orleans setting provides great atmosphere. We both liked this one, too.
Yeah, we did.
What happens?
Well, Dr. Purcell from the first film lectures about the story of Daniel Robitaille. Am I saying that correctly?
I think it's Robitaille.
Robitaille.
It's French
Daniel
kind of name.
Robitaille, yes. An artist who was brutally murdered. That's Candyman.
Yes.
The real Candyman. I mean, the original, when he was alive. Yeah. Well, even here in New Orleans, murders have been committed in his name. He tells the story of Helen. And when asked if he believes in the legend, someone in the audience challenges him to prove it, and he says his name 5 times in the mirror. And we get a fake jump-out scare, which he has staged. He knew somebody would challenge him to do this. Well, after the lecture, he runs into Ethan Tarrant. Ethan is the son of someone who believed Purcell and said the name, Candyman, and his father died. So, Ethan threatens, "You're next, Purcell," and then attacks the professor in a bar. Purcell goes to the restroom to wipe the blood off and learns that Ethan was right. Candyman will come if you call him 5 times. And then credits roll.
That took a while to get there.
Quite a bit happened before the credits. Well, we hear and see that it's 3 days before Lent in New Orleans, and Mardi Gras is in full swing. Carnival, farewell to the flesh, says the radio DJ. Annie arrives to school, and we see no hook hand posters on the wall, banning.
Not no smoking, no hook hands.
Yeah. The principal says there's some trouble with her brother, so she takes off. She's a teacher, not a student. Annie goes to see her mother, who's dying of cancer. and the two of them meet up with Paul at the police station to see Ethan, who was arrested as a suspect in Purcell's death.
He's the one that threatened the professor at the bar.
Yeah, and then, Professor's dead, so he's the prime suspect. Well, the cops talk to each other. There have been 4 identical murders, starting with Ethan and Annie's father, Coleman.
Ethan and Annie's father.
I said that. I put the emphasis wrong on that. Yeah, Coleman. Yes. Well, Ethan confessed to it. Annie says she's going to find out what really happened, and Ethan freaks out. Annie later talks to her husband, Paul, who runs a restaurant. She looks at old family photos, and her father was obsessed with a certain old house, the one where he died, and so the pair go for a visit. She says she hasn't been there in 13 years, but it looks like it's been abandoned for 50.
That place is a mess.
The New Orleans climate is harsh on buildings, I guess. Well, there's a group of homeless living there now. They look out the window toward the old slave quarters where she was never allowed to play. One room has some very familiar-looking graffiti on the wall, along with what's obviously a shrine to Candyman.
And this is probably a good time to point out that the first movie took place in the ghetto of New York City. Mm-hmm. Or was it Chicago?
Chicago,
okay.
Yeah.
This one is in...
New Orleans.
Oh, yeah. So this
long ways
it's
away.
A well-known myth at this point.
Mm-hmm. Well, back at school, 2 students are fighting over a drawing of the Candyman. She says the Candyman isn't real, but they all believe in it. Annie, to prove him wrong, stands in front of the mirror, says his name 5 times. And one of the students notices a bee on the window. But there are no monsters, she says to herself and them. Nothing happens. Must be okay. Except when she gets home, she sees him. I am the writing on the wall, the whisper in the classroom. And then he kills Paul, who has done absolutely nothing.
Wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah. Annie scratches Candyman's face and a bunch of bees pour out. Candyman vanishes and Annie goes to the police. She insists that Candyman is real. She talks to her mother, Octavia, about Candyman, and we see that her mother probably knows more than she's letting on. And Annie has some nightmares. A couple of her students come over and say that Matthew, another student, has disappeared. She goes to Matthew's father, who's a priest. He says that Matthew was kind of obsessed. He stayed up all night, most nights, and he stopped sleeping. They go to his studio, and it's all Candyman art.
He's an amateur painter.
Yeah. Well, Annie finally goes to see Ethan again, who says that he and his father were trying to protect her. All Dad ever talked about was calling him. And we get a flashback to what happened to their father. He died right in front of the Candyman shrine. Their father said he had found a way to destroy Candyman, but wouldn't tell Ethan what it was. And he says there's a man named, say that for me, Thibodeau, who may know the truth. Annie goes to find Thibodeau.
Don't have a Cajun
It's
bone
French.
in your body, do
I don't
you?
have a Cajun bone. Yeah. You got to be Cajun to say it right. Well, the police detectives are following Annie. And Thibodeau has a whole room full of weird antiques. Her father figured out that Daniel Robitaille was born in New Orleans, and he fell in love with Carolyn Sullivan. She had a mirror, and it's believed that his soul became trapped in her mirror. Her father thought that if he broke that mirror, it would kill the Candyman.
So Candyman has a Horcrux.
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. Yeah. Well, Candyman appears, and his bees kill Thibodeau. He says Annie has a daughter growing inside of her. He starts chasing Annie through town. Annie goes to Reverend Ellis, and they talk about Daniel being born here. He was born in their house. He takes her to the cemetery, and he finds Daniel and Carolyn's tombs. They had a daughter, Isabel.
Wait, what?
Yeah. Well, the detective roughs up Ethan in the interrogation room. The cop teases him by saying, you know who, in the mirror 5 times, and then he dies in seconds.
Oops.
Yeah. Ethan makes a run for it, but the cops shoot him. The good cop watches security footage showing someone invisible killing the cop. Wasn't Ethan doing it? Annie goes back to her mother's place and finds an old photo of Isabel. and she confronts Octavia about the story. She screams as she realizes we're his family. She's actually Candyman's granddaughter.
Oops.
Yeah. Octavia screams back, "No, he's not real." And he quickly disproves that to her. Well, she runs out of the building, runs right into the good cop, who tells her what happened to Ethan. Ethan runs back to the old house and starts smashing all the mirrors, the childhood home. And she runs out to the slave quarters, finds Matthew, the kid. He was missing. Okay, he's back. The place is literally crumbling and falling down, so Annie sends Matthew for help. She finds the magic mirror among several skeletons, and then Candyman pops up and says, "The mirror is the secret of my strength, the keeper of my soul." And we get a flashback to Daniel's final moments. The white men from town chased him down, sawed off his hand, and stuck a hook in. Then they smeared him with honey and mocked him, calling the Candyman.
In the first movie, we heard this story, but we didn't see anything. This time we get to see the flashbacks.
Yeah, here they actually acted out. And a huge swarm of bees appeared and covered Daniel. Carolyn, the love interest, she ran up to help him, but the others stopped her. And Carolyn's father shows Daniel his face in a mirror. And then when he died, Carolyn kept the mirror. So it kind of captured his essence. Back in the present, Candyman begs, "Join me, Annie. We will go together in a world without pain." See, it's again, he's doing that seductive stuff. Annie grabs the mirror and water rushes in, flooding the whole place. Annie's students arrive to pull her out. Candyman comes back, so she smashes the mirror. And he turns to glass, shatters into the floodwaters. We'll never see him again, right?
Nope.
Yeah. The whole building floats away as they all get out. And Matthew goes home to his father, as does Annie. She goes home, not to her father. He's dead. Later, in New York, Annie raises her daughter, whose name is Caroline.
Ooh.
So this would be Caroline is Candyman's great-granddaughter.
Well, the location of this one, New Orleans, could not be creepier if it tried, and it all looked very realistic. Well, the DJ would be annoying in anything else. He's kind of appropriate here. And of course, the music from the first film carries over to this one. Candyman is much more of an actual character here, and he gets a lot more screen time than in the previous film, whether it was debatable whether he was even real or just a legend. Yeah, this one here, he's pretty obviously real.
Mm-hmm.
We get to see his whole backstory this time around. It was very good, and in some ways, better than the original.
Definitely a win.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then we watched a short film, Goodnight, Gracie, from 2023. Written and directed by Stellan Kendrick, stars Courtney Gaines, the weird-looking kid from the Children of the Corn movies, and Cage Coulter, 3 minutes and 32 seconds. It's a shorty.
She's not that weird looking.
The guy.
Oh, the guy.
He's the red-haired, weird-looking hillbilly kid.
I thought you were talking about her. Okay.
No, the girl's fine.
Yeah.
What happens?
Little Gracie tries to go to sleep, but there's lots of noise outside her room. And then there are screams and crashes downstairs. She gets up and grabs her flashlight, finds a madman cutting her mother into little pieces.
For just a short film, it's got a good story, good acting, and you always know exactly what's going on. It also has the most realistic exorcism scene ever. Because if something really happened like that, that's exactly the way it would go.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, there's a link in the show notes to watch that one on YouTube.
That was a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, Courtney Gaines was the creepy sidekick in the original Children of the Corn.
Right, the big guy.
He's like 60 now, so he's not the creepy kid anymore. He's just the mass murderer in the basement.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about typecast.
Wow.
Candyman, Day of the Dead, 1999. Directed by Turi Meyer. Written by Clive Barker, Alfredo Septian, and Turi Meyer. I suspect Clive Barker had little to do with this one.
It's just inspired by characters based on Clive Barker's story.
Stars Donna D'Errico, Tony Todd, and Alexia Robinson. Hour and 33 minutes. Trailer in the show notes. Spoiler free. What happens?
This one was a step down from the previous two. It had a lower budget, and they sent it straight to DVD.
which is noticeable.
Yeah. There are some interesting things with the new setting and theme, and there's a lot of Candyman's paintings, but it seemed long, and we missed the music.
Yeah, we don't usually pay that much attention to the music unless it really stands out or is really obnoxious. At this one, we noticed it because it was lacking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, well, anyway, adult Caroline, the child from the previous film.
So time has passed.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
She wakes up and finds sweets to the sweet written in blood on the bathroom wall. And we haven't mentioned that, but that phrase has come up on various paintings in the other movies.
Yeah, it was a recurring theme.
She spots Candyman, who slashes her. Credits roll. Carolyn wakes up, obviously not dead, and looks at her drawings of Daniel Robitaille. She summarizes what we saw in the previous film for her friend Tamara, who takes her over to the mirror and proves that the story isn't true, but Carolyn agrees that he isn't real before she can finish the ritual. Candyman, 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 Candy. I got it. Just stop right there.
Mm-hmm.
We cut to scenes of Los Angeles. Oh, another state.
Which is a question I had. Does it reset?
Where's the delay?
If you say it 4 times and then walk away from the mirror and then go to a different mirror and say it 1 more time, does that count as 5 or does it reset from 0?
What if you're standing in position of 2 mirrors and you say it 3 times?
Then it counts as 6 because there's a double reflection.
What if you say it 10 times? You get 2 of him?
These are unanswered questions.
You got to be scientific about these things.
Yeah, the science of Candyman.
Okay, well, we cut to the scenes of Los Angeles, where Carolyn buys some candy for the Day of the Dead, which is coming soon. She goes to an art gallery showing the complete works of Daniel Robitaille. Miguel, a.k.a. Mickey, is doing a show highlighting him as a monster, but Carolyn doesn't approve. They are her property, after all, because she's his descendant.
Mm-hmm.
She gives in and lets him proceed, and a couple of racist cops come in and harass Mickey, because we need some drama. Mickey tells the story to the assembled crowd, and we get another flashback of Candyman's origin, but this time with more nudity. Because it's the 3rd movie, we got to sell it somehow.
Yep, got to step it up.
He introduces Carolyn as Daniel's great-great-granddaughter, and he challenges her to say his name 5 times in front of a mirror. She does it, and a crazy man gives us a jump scare. David comes in later. It turns out he was just the actor who played crazy earlier at Mickey's prompting. Carolyn is not amused. She goes home through the skankiest subway station you ever saw and hears the Candyman's voice. Then the bees come, and she sees him. You doubted me, and yet you called my name. I came for you. Believe in me. She wakes up outside on a park bench outside Mickey's house. We get another flashback where we see what happened to Mickey and his date, and it wasn't a good time. Carolyn finds the bodies, and Believe is painted on the wall. I think Ted Lasso did it.
I believe so.
The racist cops return to question Carolyn about the deaths. It's clear that they want to go after David, but she explains that his crazy was just an act for the show. He tells her that the gallery has been broken into and all the paintings are missing. She goes home and flips out. We get another flashback, this time of her mother's suicide. She tells Tamara that Candyman killed Miguel and the others. Get a lot of flashbacks.
Yes.
David complains that the cops are after him for murder, and Detective Kraft is out to get him. He says word on the street is that a gang broke in and stole the paintings. They may be the ones that killed Mickey as well. She says that if they find the gang, that may clear David of the accusation. The pair then goes to see Tino, the guy who runs all the gangs in town, and she encounters Candyman in the restroom. Who runs all the gangs in your town?
I don't know.
I think most people don't know.
I'd have to look that up. I don't know.
What, are you on Google?
Maybe. Yeah.
Who runs all the... Yeah, just everybody knows who runs the gangs. That's why they're the boss. They're famous.
Right. And I don't think in real life, a city the size of Los Angeles
is going to have one guy,
a person who runs all the gangs. I don't think it works like that.
No.
You probably run some, but no. Yeah, they're presenting it like every gang.
Even with organized
city,
crime,
literally.
there's not just one guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so they go to see David's daughter and grandmother, who calls herself a spiritual healer. The old lady has Carolyn say Candyman into an egg, and then she breaks the egg. She watches as the egg bleeds, and then a bee climbs out.
That's not a good sign.
Not the way that's supposed to go.
Yeah.
Carolyn and David then go home, and he tells them all about the Day of the Dead. She says that she's the last of her family. I'm all alone. To which he replies, no, you're not. Cue the Latin lover music, until Candyman takes his place. Accept your destiny. Be my victim.
Yikes.
Carolyn wakes up and tells Tamara everything, but Candyman makes short work of her. Detective Kraft eventually shows up and arrests Carolyn for Tamara's murder.
And once again, it's making it look like
It's starting just like the first movie, yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Kraft's partner laughs about the Candyman in the squad car, but he doesn't laugh long because you know who shows up.
Mm-hmm. And again, another, authority figure gets killed. It looks like she did it. Whoops.
Carolyn runs back to David's abuela's place to wash the cop's blood off. Evil cannot exist without good. You must destroy the good, and evil will die. You must find the good. What is his good? Carolyn remembers the missing paintings.
Mm-hmm.
And Tino calls her there about the missing paintings, so she goes right over there. So the guy who stole the paintings is terrified and eager to return them to her. Here, you take these. I don't want these no more.
Yeah, he keeps seeing creepy stuff.
He drops her off at another abandoned building, and she finds the paintings inside. Turns out there's some kind of goth cult there who capture and tie her up. That's not what the gangsters intended.
No, it isn't, but...
They call for the Candyman, and the bees show up, followed by him.
And they think they're going to, tame him or he'll grant them a boon or something. It doesn't work that way. He kills them all.
Yeah. Why would they think that would work?
Yeah.
The cultists are all soon dead, but he also takes the paintings away with him. Meanwhile, Detective Kraft is suspended and throws a temper tantrum. Carolyn goes to the place she knows where Candyman is said to have once killed someone, and the paintings are there. She also finds David hanging from a chain. Your life for his, offers the Candyman. Carolyn gives in and goes over to him. He kisses her, and the bees come out. She runs up the hill of skulls, and, covered in bees, slashes his paintings. He screams and burns.
So
never see him again.
Once again, he is destroyed.
Carolyn goes to David, who's going to be okay. Then Detective Kraft drunkenly staggers in and threatens her, but the good cop shoots him in the back. She says that Kraft was the Candyman, because he's got like this hook in his hand. And they pin all the murders on him, destroying the myth.
Or did they?
All right. So apparently Candyman was painting Believe on walls 20 years before Ted Lasso was even a thing.
I guess so.
Candyman is haunting Carolyn. Other than that, there's just no real story here. Nothing that we haven't already seen before.
Yeah, the whole thing was just generally disappointing.
Let's do that
compared
again.
to the first,
Let's take those first two movies and do that again.
Two. Yeah.
Tony Todd has admitted he wasn't pleased with the film. This one was straight to DVD. It was low budget, rushed, and doesn't even have the music that helped so much with the first two movies. It was long and feels like a wasted opportunity. And, I don't know where Detective Kraft was. He was not a good guy. He was a racist and a jerk and a drunk. But, I bet he probably had an alibi during some of those murders.
Probably did.
We know it wasn't him.
Mm-hmm. But they could fudge around that. They probably did. Look, we have an explanation now. Let's close the case. We'll just not speak of it ever again.
We'll say he did, because we don't like him.
It was so well, and there was so much weirdness around it too. And they're just like, yep, closed case. Yep, good. He did it.
Yep. Okay, so that was 1999's third movie, and then it was kind of forgotten about it for 22 years.
And then a breath of fresh air in 2021, they did a thing.
There's more, but wait, there's more. Whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Directed by this 21. It's called Candyman, same as the first one. Directed by Nia DaCosta. Written by Jordan Peele, Wynn Rosenfield, and Nia DaCosta. Stars Yahya Abdul-Mateen II, Teyona Paris, and Nathan Stewart Jarrett. Hour and 31 minutes. Trailer in the show notes. And I heard this came out when it came out. We didn't see it at the theater, and I never heard much about it, good or otherwise.
I didn't either. Yeah, I heard it was coming, and then it just kind of fell off the radar.
Yeah.
Missed it at the theater.
COVID killed the theaters that year.
Yes.
So, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, so this was our first time viewing it.
Spoiler free, this lacks Tony Todd being prominent as Candyman, but they still make it sort of work. It's kind of a reboot and kind of a sequel. The script is pretty good, with a good cast and interesting direction, cool puppetry, and good music too.
Shadow puppets, those were awesome.
Those were good, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, now Candyman, this had the same title as the 92 movie.
Yeah.
And we recently had Scream, which was Scream 6 actually, with the same name as the first movie.
I guess that's a thing to do.
Why are we doing this?
It's a thing. It's a thing.
You could call it Candyman 4 and it would be perfect.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. That's what they do now.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
No.
All right, well, what happens?
Well,
without spoiling it terribly, because this is fairly new.
Yeah. We open up on Cabrini Greens in 1977.
That's where the first one took place.
Uh-huh. Little Billy carries his laundry to the laundry room. There's a big paint spot on the wall that he thinks is creepy. He sees someone walk through the paint spot, which is actually a hole in the wall. And the man's shadow has a hook for a hand. Huh. Well, modern day, Anthony is an artist, and his girlfriend is Brianna. Her brother Troy is there with his boyfriend Grady. Troy asks if they all want to hear a scary story.
No.
He tells the story of a white grad student named Helen who was doing research on Cabrini Green, and then one day she just snapped and beheaded a Rottweiler.
I've heard this story before.
Yeah, she left a trail of bodies behind her. Helen is said to have run into the big bonfire with a kidnapped baby, but the crowd rushed in and saved the child. Helen walked into the fire and burned to death. It's an altered summary of the first movie.
And it's completely wrong.
But
that's
urban
the way
legendy.
the story goes.
That's
yes.
how urban legends happen. Yeah, she's become one now. Anthony promises his manager Clive that he's doing some art based on the projects about racism. He goes there, takes a photo of an old church, and notices a swarm of bees on the ground. He climbs a fence, goes into some deserted houses. He spots some weird graffiti on the walls. He meets William Burke, a man who still lives there. He says Helen was here looking for the Candyman. She thinks she found him. He was Little Billy from the opening scene. And there was a man named Sherman living in the projects who had a hook for a hand and always gave out candy to the kids. Except about 100 cops killed the man on the spot when he was accused of putting razor blades in the candy. And then a few weeks after his death, they learned, that was a mistake. He was innocent. So there's a second kind of Candyman legend here, nestled in among all the other
The real
Candyman
guy with
legends.
the hook on his hand that gave away candy, yes, who died on the spot.
Yeah.
It's a coincidence, maybe.
Maybe, yeah. Well, Anthony goes home. He's inspired, starts painting. He paints the murder of Sherman, which led to the legend of Candyman, he thinks. That doesn't realize the origin is further back than that. Well, the art show opens. Anthony has some of his works located in a room behind a mirror, a homage to the original movie, which I thought was actually a cool effect in the gallery.
You got to look through this little peephole to see the paintings.
Yeah, you open, it's one of the swinging mirror doors, like a medicine cabinet, and there's another little room behind it.
You
full
find
of paintings.
Candyman behind the mirror.
Yeah, that was neat. Critic says, it's uninspired, and he needs a day job.
Critics are like
She's
that.
hard to please, yeah. Anthony tells off Clive in front of the whole show, and Clive responds by saying that Anthony was only invited because Brianna begged him. So there's interpersonal dramas going on here between these relationships that these people have. Clive and his girlfriend talk about Anthony later, and she talks about summoning the Candyman. Well, she does, and she dies. Huh. Clive tries to run away, but something invisible to us kills him right there in the studio. Meanwhile, Anthony's at home painting in a trance, and his hands, especially the one, is all bloody and burnt looking, and he's not looking too good. Well, Brianna dreams of her father, who jumps out of a window when she was little. Anthony goes to the university and asks about Helen's work, and they give him a folder and a tape machine, where Helen explains her psychological theories. The mirrored elevator stops, and Anthony finds a piece of candy before spotting Candyman on the ceiling, but nothing's really there.
And weirdness continues.
Yeah.
Probably shouldn't spoil all the good stuff.
Weirder and weirder. And we do kind of see, a shadow of Tony Todd, but he's not really there in this as Candyman.
I think in most of the scenes, it's the main guy, Anthony, is playing the Candyman, like he's possessed or something.
Yeah.
We don't really see Tony Todd until the very, very end.
Mm-hmm. And then there's the shadow puppets.
I like those shadow puppets.
Those were awesome. Yeah.
The Cabrini Green Towers, where the original film was set, had all been demolished and torn down and replaced with high-rises since the first film was shot there 20 years ago. This story was switched to take place in the row houses, which were still standing, still part of the same group.
Yeah, and we are back in Chicago.
It's sort of a reboot and it's sort of a sequel. Yes, a requel. Mm-hmm. And the events of the first film are told as a sort of urban legend, but we see newspaper clippings that support it. So the first movie at least happened. We don't really have any connection to 2 and 3, which is probably for the better. Mm-hmm. The shots of the city are cool, and the soundtrack is quite good as well. The many uses of the silhouette puppets were interesting, especially in the beginning. Be sure to watch the end credit sequence.
Yeah, there's a lot of it in the end. Yeah.
There's a social message here about cops being anti-black, and although it's a little heavy-handed, it's not necessarily unjustified. Mm-hmm. Most of the bad reviews that I heard about this said that it was just too woke. And I think that's kind of been part of the story since 92. It's kind of anti-racist all along.
Yeah.
Although it's the shortest of the Candyman films, it felt a little stretched out in some places. But overall, it is pretty good. We both liked it, I think.
Yeah, I liked it a lot.
It's not as good as the original.
Not as good.
But it's good.
But very good.
And that is all our new movies for this week. Go over to horrorbulletin.com and read about Murder to the Tune of 7 Black Notes, also known as The Psychic. Mm-hmm. That was the other name I couldn't think of earlier. Yes. That's a whole lot easier to look up.
And that's got a really cool poster, the artwork.
I like that skull, yes.
Yeah.
We both like the skulls a lot. Mm-hmm. And the other movie was 1966, The Psychopath. If you like creepy doll movies, give that a shot. All right, well, that's our show for this week. Tune in next week when Kevin's going to clean out his dollar store DVD pile. I'm like, what are we going to watch this week? I don't know. We got all these DVDs.
We should try some DVDs.
These are dollar store leftovers. Except for one, we're going to watch a brand new one called You're Killing Me that just came out this year. It just came to direct-to-video this week, and we'll tell you about that next time. It's a new one.
Yeah, brand new.
Other than that, though, we'll have
DVDs.
5.
That many? Not 5.
Yeah, we got the You're Killing Me for Monday.
Yeah, that's
Tuesday,
right.
Wednesday, and Thursday is our new movie, and then the 2 for the weekend. So it's 5.
5 movies, yeah.
We may not talk about them all.
We may not talk about them all.
All right, what are they? Let's see. We've got The Disappointments Room from 2016, which is, who's in it? Kate Beckinsale. Mm-hmm. Which, for 20 years, I've heard her name and always thought it was Beckinsdale with a D. There's no D in it. It's Beckinsale. Uh-huh. Like you're drinking it.
When bad movies happen to good people.
Shark Night from 2011. Mm-hmm. Frankenstein versus the Mummy. We got, what was the other one? The Frankenstein Theory. Mm-hmm. And the other one was Cowboys versus Zombies. And we got a range here from excellent to incredibly awful.
Not so excellent.
We'll let you know which is which next week. In the meantime, I'm Brian.
And I'm Kevin.
See you next week.
See ya.